How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a story of the subscriber's friend's very sus little sister who does some very, very strange things that makes them quite uncomfortable. So let's just jump right into this. Leave a like to claim your free nothing, and we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the story Daniel. So anyways, this all happened a little while back. And Daniel had this friend, and we're going to call Daniel's friend Ben. They had been friends for a very, very long time. And a long time before this. So they were juniors, or Daniel and Ben were juniors. Ben's little sister was a sophomore, so 1 year before them. But a long time ago, back in 6th grade, Ben's little sister had this massive crush on Daniel, and whenever he'd come over to play like Lego Star Wars or something, she would always be like walking around, like happened to always show up where they were. She, all this kind of stuff, right? And eventually, like, Ben actually had to have a talk with her that she needed to chill out, even though she was in 5th grade and he was in 6th grade. So it was like all this like little, like, I don't know, the most they would ever do would be hold hands, but obviously Ben was like, or Daniel was like, bro, that's your little sister, bro. That's weird. That's weird. And yeah, Daniel also thought that was strange. So he kind of told his little sister that she needed to chill out and that she needed to do something else, right? So anyways, all those years later, Daniel and Ben went to high school together. They went to middle school together, and they just went through the same high school. And it had been like a while since Daniel had been over at Ben's house. So he's like, hey, bro, like, what are you doing this weekend? And, Ben was like, oh, not that much. If you want to come over, that's totally fine. And, of course, Ben was like, yeah. Or Daniel's like, yeah, that sounds great. So Daniel comes over. And one thing I will also say is Daniel has not seen Ben's little sister in a very, very long time because she went to a different high school. They went to the same middle school together, but then again, they were in different grades, so they never really saw each other that often. And also, it had been a second since Daniel had been over at Ben's house. While they remained pretty close friends, I think the few times that, Daniel had actually been at Ben's house, she had been gone, and since she didn't go to the same school as them, he had not seen her in years. So anyways, Daniel gets to Ben's house. Things are pretty cool. Things are good, right? They have the plan for the day is, they're going to, Daniel's going to go over to Ben's house. They're going to chill for a second. Then they're going to go to the movies. Then they're going to head back. And then they're just, I don't know, they're just going to hang out and go to bed. Very solid night, right? Very solid night. And so Daniel makes his way over to, Daniel makes his way over to Ben's house, gets to the door. It's like, what's good? Ben's like, hey, how's it going, man? Come on in. Comes on in. Everything's looking pretty good. He walks in. Life is pretty good. He sits down. They're talking about, like, I don't know. I think they had this, like, one class together, and they were kind of talking about how, the teacher is against them. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that most likely that not every teacher is evil, even though it sometimes feels that way, and that they're not all after you, and they're not all heartless creatures, even though it does seem that way. Sometimes I've slowly come around to the conclusion that maybe that's just part of their job, and the ones that seem super cool are actually not doing their jobs right, but I digress. Anyways, so, they're sitting at the kitchen counter, they're talking about whatever, and Daniel sees that Ben's little sister walks down the stairs. She must have been there on the weekend or whatever, and Daniel's like, oh, what's good? Like, it's been a while. And we're just going to call this girl Kate. And so I don't have to keep on saying Ben's little sister. That's 3 syllables. Kate is 1, much easier. So Kate comes down, and, Kate starts talking to Daniel because it had been like, I don't know, 5, 6, it had been a long time since they've seen each other. So understandably, she comes over, starts talking to him, whatever, right? And, the conversation was pretty normal. And Daniel didn't even remember. Like, that little bit of context I gave you where Kate had this massive crush on Daniel for the longest time back in, like, 5th or 6th grade. And so it got so bad that she actually needed to be stopped, you know what I mean? That was not even in his mind until Kate says something a little weird. Something a little bit weird. Kate asks if Daniel has a girlfriend. And Ben's kind of sitting at the table, kind of gives them both a bit of a look, like, what's going on here, guys? Like, what's up? And, Daniel's like, oh, no, like, I don't. Like, Ben knows my struggles, kind of points at Ben. Ben laughs a little bit. And, Daniel's little sister Kay is like, oh, well, that's surprising. I would have thought that all the girls at your high school would have loved you, Daniel. Like, I just can't see why they aren't. And, like, I don't know. At that point, it was a little weird because when you say that, you're basically implying, when you say, I don't see why they don't all love you, basically implying that you see something in him and you're confused why they don't. So Ben kind of has a little look on his face, and Daniel's like, Daniel tries to like steer the conversation as quickly as possible, and he does. But anyways, they're chilling there for a little bit, and eventually, I think Ben or Daniel says like, oh, it's about time we go to the movies or whatever. And I think Kate was walking by. I don't even think that she was like that close. She wasn't like hanging out with them the whole time. I think she just happened to be walking by when, Daniel or Ben said, oh, we're going to the movies or whatever. And she's like, oh, what movie? And Daniel says the movie, and she looks at Ben and she's like, hey, can I come? I really want to see that. And Ben's like, yeah, sure, that's whatever, right? Ben and his sister were pretty close anyway, so it's not like they were beefing or anything, and it was fine, like whatever. So she hops in the car and they're all driving over, and they get out and, they go to the movie theater, they get popcorn, they sit down. And the way they sit down is, so Ben sits on the very far end. Then Daniel comes in and sits down, and then Kate sits next to Daniel, and he doesn't think anything of it. I will say that Daniel is a little bit aware that it's a little bit strange that she said that thing about like, oh, I can't, wow, you don't have a girlfriend? What are the girls at your school? They're missing out. Like that's a little bit weird. Cannot lie, right? Cannot lie about that one. So sure enough, they're sitting at the movies, and they're just watching whatever. And things get to be a little weird. Real quick, subscribe if you haven't already and you like stories. Trying to hit 1 million subs because the gold play button would be pretty cool. Anyways, things start to get a little bit weird because, he's sitting there and she is sitting next to him, and he just feels this hand like on his lower leg, like his upper thigh, or what? Not upper, okay, that's a little weird, like lower upper part of his leg, right? Like the top half of his leg, and it's just like resting there. And he looks up, and it is Kate. She just has it there, and Daniel's like a little bit weirded out right now. He's not gonna lie, he's a little bit weirded out. He's just like, okay, I don't totally know what this means. And part of him's like, oh, maybe this is a friendship upper thigh hold. You know what I mean? It's a little hard to, I'm not going to lie, Daniel was definitely doing a bit of mental gymnastics to justify what is happening to himself. I will not lie. He's doing a bit of mental gymnastics for sure. And she just like kind of like, oh man, and then like the most, Daniel says the second most awkward thing that happens that night, because don't worry, the big crazy thing is still coming. But they make eye contact. Daniel looks over and she looks up at him as she like has his hand on her leg and like starts to move it up a little bit. And Daniel's like turns to Ben, is like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Turns her and kind of like make sure that she hears. So he gets up and he leaves. He walks out. He goes to the bathroom. He's in the bathroom right now. He just like, Daniel like gets to the counter and just kind of like sits there, or like puts his hands down on the counter, looks into the mirror, looks back at himself, right? And he's just like, that's gotta be sus, right? That's gotta be something. I'm not making that up. And he just kind of like sits there for a second. He's thinking to himself, okay. No way would Ben's sister want to have anything to do with me, right? Sure, even if she did like me in 6th grade, and sure, even though she did make that weird comment about how the girls should like me at my school. And sure, she just did run her hand up my leg while making eye contact with me. And oh no. And that's when Daniel realizes that he is not being dramatic, that he is not making things up, and that in fact, Kate is basically making a move objectively, right? So then Daniel thinks to himself, okay, and he's right at this moment, he's still sitting in the, sitting in the movie theater bathroom. So people are walking by or whatever, and he's just like looking at himself in the mirror like, okay, there's no way she would actually make a move though, right? I mean, Ben would be so mad, like she wouldn't want to do that to him, right? Right? And at that moment, the door opens up and Ben walks behind him. He's like, what's good, man? You feeling all right? Because like, Daniel's just staring at himself in the mirror, just like, ugh. And he kind of looks a little sick, bro, because this scenario is making him sick. But yeah, anyways, Daniel looks at Ben and is like, yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah. Don't worry about me, man. I'm big chillin'. You're good. And Daniel kind of looks at him, or Ben kind of looks at him, gives him a little bit of a weird look, like, are you sure? And it's just like, all right, well, let me know if anything changes. So let me just let you know that something does change. Something really big and awkward and just big, just bad. This big bad, right? That's the easiest way for me to put it, is about to happen. And you thought that, like, Kate has been making a move so far? No. But Kate is about to make an actual move, and it's pretty bad. But if you made it this far into the video, I would like you to comment movie down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. I'll heart as many comments as I can that say movie, as that is the secret word. I'll try and, if you want to farm some hearts, try and get top commenter. Best way to do that is to comment that down below right now. Let's get back to it. So anyways, Daniel, Ben, and Kate, eventually they're back in the car, driving back from the movie. They're talking about if they enjoyed the movie, what they thought about it, all that kind of good stuff, right? And they eventually drive back, and I think they stop at a restaurant or something. I'm trying to remember what, because Daniel submitted this as subscriber story. You can submit your own stories to my Instagram. He said they stopped at like a restaurant or something like that, and it was cool, and nothing happened. The important detail is that after the weird movie thing, nothing happens for the rest of the night until something a little later, but up until this point, Daniel's kind of thinking, okay, I think I made the message clear to her that I'm not trying to do anything, because when she tried to do something, I got up and went to the bathroom. So Daniel at this point was he was relieved. He was kind of felt this weight drop off of him, because he's like, okay, she gets it. I made my point clear. Things are good, etc. Right? So he's feeling pretty good about it. They go to dinner. Things are pretty normal. They eventually get back to the house. It's kind of late. They just kind of all sit down on the couch or whatever. Actually, Kate goes up and does something else. It's literally just Daniel and Ben chilling on the couch. I don't know. I'm throwing some like Netflix or something, some TV show, or I don't know, something like kind of just a wind down at the end of the day, good relaxing whatever, who knows, right? And eventually Ben's like, bro, Daniel, I'm beat, I'm going to bed, like, you can stay here, it's fine. It was like 9 at night, so Daniel was not tired at this point, so he was kind of like, all right, well, I'm gonna stay here for a little bit, but it's been a good day, I'll see you around. So Ben goes upstairs, and Daniel's just sitting on the couch, right? And he's just kind of chilling, relaxing, doing whatever. He's on his phone, partially watching TV, kind of doing that little split screen activity, you know what I mean? And that's when, he sees Kate walk down, and she's probably trying to get some, like, water or something. She turns around, she's like, oh, Daniel, where's Ben? And Daniel looks up, and in his head, he's like, uh-oh. He's like, Ben went to bed. Ben went to bed early. But obviously I'm not too tired right now, so I'm staying up. And she's like, oh, okay. And she literally just invites herself in and sits on the couch next to him. And Daniel in his head is like, okay, this is fine. This is fine. You know that meme with, like, the dog who's, like, sitting at a desk and the entire thing around him's on fire and he's like, this is fine? That was more or less Daniel's mentality at this point, because he knew things were not that fine. Because sure enough, Kate was, like, flirting with him a little bit. She was saying all this stuff. I don't know exactly what she said, but just recreate standard flirting, right? It can't be that hard. Can't be that hard for you guys to guess. But it's just like, very standard stuff, right? And she's like, oh, give me the remote or whatever. And the thing is, this is where it gets weird. So the remote is on the other side of where Daniel's, like, so it's like on the other side of him, right? And it's like, she, instead of waiting for him to pick up the remote and give it to her, what she does is she, like, reaches over him and, like, leans over him to get the remote. And instead of grabbing the remote and coming back, like, instead of grabbing the remote and going back to where she was sitting, she stops midway through leaning over him. It's very clear in retrospect that she did not care about the remote. She just wanted to get in an ideal position, right? Because she leans over, and instead of grabbing the remote and looking at the remote, she turns her head to look up directly at Daniel. So now Daniel is in a position where Kate is leaning over him, and her face is facing his, and they're like 3 inches apart. And Daniel's just like, And it is the most awkward 30 seconds. She's like legitimately there for maybe under 30 seconds, but above 20 seconds. It is a good amount of time that she is just awkwardly there, just like looking at him. He's like, And she eventually grabs the remote, puts something on, and within like 10 minutes or less, she gets up and she's like, I'm going to bed. I'll see you tomorrow. And it's so apparent that she like basically realized that she got rejected in that moment because, I mean, while she didn't make a move, she got herself into a position where, like, if she fell forward, she would have made a move. Like, she got herself into such a position where it was so obvious what she wanted to do and what she wanted Daniel to do. And the fact that Daniel didn't, like, say okay and, like, go with it kind of just shows that, that he basically said no. And she picked up on that pretty quickly because even after she stood there, because she stayed there for like 10 minutes after picking something on the TV, but she just was not talking to him. She like was much farther away from him. Like when she sat on the couch, she sat like half a foot away from him. By the time she grabbed the remote and was like rejected, she sat all the way at the end of the couch. Like it was very clear that she knew she got rejected. So the next day they all wake up and they're all sitting at the kitchen counter. And it's very awkward, and they're all very tired. And it's not really awkward because it's awkward between Daniel and Kate, but Ben is kind of picking up on that. But he doesn't question it. He doesn't think much about it. And if you want to support the channel, go watch another video. Leave a like in the video.